in today's class, we'll be we'll be starting Unit 2. Okay. So, the Unit 2. Semiconductor diode. Okay. And its characteristics. So, before talking about straightly about diode, no, we need to talk about something about physics, right? So, about the physics, we have to go through the review of some theory principles. Okay. So, some background is necessary for that. So, in today's class, I'll be talking some background. What is the intrinsic semiconductor? What is the extrinsic semiconductor? What is the p-type semiconductor? What is n-type semiconductor? Right? Before that, some basic principles which is not there in the syllabus, but you should know it. You should know it before starting the syllabus of the second unit. Okay. So there are some materials. Maybe you are knowing some materials like copper, right? Then you will be knowing some material known as aluminium, etc. What are these, students? Copper, aluminium are the good conductors of electricity. Okay. Whereas materials such as wood and glass, mica are very bad conductors, right? Are very bad conductors. What do you mean by conductors now? Conductors are nothing but where we have a current flow of electricity. Okay, wood, glass, mica, is there any current flow in that? No. So these are bad conductors. Copper, aluminium, yes, these are a very good conductors because there is a flow of current, that is flow of electricity, right? So copper, aluminium are the good conductors. Wood, glass, mica are very bad conductors and hence they are known as insulators. Okay, so this is another class of materials where conductivity, ability, that is what is conductivity? Ability to carry electricity that lies between the conductors and the insulators. Okay, so one more class of material is there, that is semiconductor. Semiconductor. What is this class of materials? Semiconductor lies in between the conductors and insulators. Conductors are nothing but very good flow of electricity. Insulators, it's a very extreme that there is no flow of electricity. Okay, the ability to carry the electricity which lies between the conductors and the insulators, such materials are called semiconductor. So semiconductor examples are silicon and germanium. These are the two very good examples for semiconductors. I repeat, what are semiconductors? In which the conductivity which is able to carry the electricity lies between the conductors and insulators. So semiconductors are in between the good conductors and the insulators. Okay, so they lie between the conductors and insulators. And the example of semiconductors are silicon and germanium. Okay, so next, what is structure of the matter? What is a matter? Matter may be a space, maybe a solid, liquid or gas. So you should be knowing about the molecules and the atoms of which all the substances are composed, but not elements which are themselves made up of simple entities. Okay, so do you know, students, about the atom? Atom comprises of the nucleus, right, which has a nucleus which is surrounded by a nucleus at the center. and it is having three shells: first shell, second shell, and the third one is the valence shell. Okay, so have you heard about the neutrons, proton, and electrons? So after the atom, we should also know some terms such as neutron, proton, and electrons. So what are these electrons, protons, and neutrons? Right. What is a proton now? Proton is positively charged. Positively charged particle. Electron is negatively charged. Electron is negatively charged. And neutron is uncharged. Neutral. It is uncharged. So these are fundamental particles which are invisible to the bare eyes, and these are known as neutrons, protons, and electrons. Proton is positively charged and the electron is negatively charged, and the neutron is uncharged, electrically neutral in nature. Okay. So next let me talk about the structure of an atom. Structure of an atom. How does this atom look like? You should know this. Okay. So here basically the structure of atom is, so this is center part, nucleus. This is first shell. This is second shell. This is third shell. Okay. So here this one is a nucleus. Right, students? And then this is shell 1 and this is shell 2 and this one is the third shell known as valence shell. Okay. So each shell, first shell, second shell, third shell is known as high valence shell. Okay. So each shell has energy level associated with it. So always remember, each shell is having some energy associated with it. Closer the shell to the nucleus, more tightly it will bond to the nucleus and possesses lower energy level. So here this, if suppose this is a first shell and there are some electrons on this, these electrons are very tightly coupled to the nucleus and they are attracted towards the nucleus. Okay. Next, if suppose in the second shell there are some electrons, okay, these are also little bit lesser than the first shell. These electrons are attracted to the nucleus. Okay. If there are some electrons on the valence shell, what happens? They are far from nucleus. In the third shell, the electrons are far from nucleus and hence they are able to join with the other atoms of the adjacent. Okay. So the energy level of the shell 1 is lowest, while the energy level of the valence shell is the highest. Okay. More energy level indicates that the electrons of that shell are loosely bound to the nucleus. Farther the electrons from the nucleus, they are able to bond with the other atoms of the adjacent. Okay. Hence valent electrons are loosely bound to the nucleus because the valence electrons are farther from the nucleus and they have highest energy to join to the atom of the adjacent one or the neighboring one. This is a concept. What you have to understand here is the valence shell is having highest energy and the shell 1 is having lowest energy. Okay. So here an electron which is not subjected to any force of attraction of the nucleus is called free electron. If suppose if there is an electron over here, these are known as free electrons. Okay, if they are not subjected to any attraction, okay, if they are not attracted towards some attraction or some energy level, if they are free, so they are known as free electron, and such free electrons are basically responsible for the flow of current. So the flow of electrons is nothing but, students, flow of current. Flow of current. Okay, so let me explain once again in a brief. This is nucleus, this is first shell, this is second shell, this is third shell. Shell 1 is having lowest energy, and the electrons on the shell 1 are attracted towards the nucleus very easily. Next, in the shell 2, if there are some free electrons, they are also attracted to the nucleus, comparatively less compared to shell 1, and the electrons which are present in the valence shell are very much loosely bonded to the nucleus, and they are able to move freely and try to adjust and mingle with the atoms of the adjacent ones or the neighboring ones. So this is about this structure of an atom. Next, atomic structure of an germanium and silicon. So here let me draw the atomic structure. Atomic structure of silicon. So here the atomic number is nothing but the number of protons. So number of protons is 14 in this. So 14, how do I distribute this now? Okay, see, this is the nucleus. Okay, next shell 1, next 2, next 3. So how do you distribute it now? Okay, in the first shell always there is uniformity maintained. So the how does we maintain the uniformity of the electrons? Now how to atomic number is number of protons, we need to distribute it 2, 8, 18, so on. Now we have 14. First I will put here 1, 2 in the first shell. Next 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the first shell I have put 2. In the second shell I have put 8. So total it is 10. So how many are remaining? How many are remaining? 4 are remaining. So in the last one it is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the third shell. These are the valence electrons which are, these are the valence electrons means which are free electrons, which can, if we apply some external voltage to the valence electrons, then they can easily bond to the next atom of the next adjacent one. Okay, in this way we have to write the atomic structure of the energy band theory. I think you have heard about this, the energy band theory. So there are basically various bands, but we know the atoms are brought very closer to each other, in that the outer shell electrons are shared by more than one atom. Okay, so the electrons which come under the influence of the forces from other atoms are, and these valence electrons are shared by forming a bond with the valence electrons of the adjacent one. Now let me tell you, if this is a nucleus, 1, 2, 3, and this is a nucleus, so 1, 2, 3. So here there are free electrons of the silicon, isn't it? 4 electrons are there. Here they are distributed. So what happens, when I apply some voltage to this free electrons in the valence shell, they get attracted towards the adjacent ones. So they form a bond. They form a bond and they are known as covalent bond. Those are known as covalent bonds. The valence electrons are shared by forming a bond with the valence electrons of the adjacent atom. Okay. These are the valence electrons. So these, when I apply some voltage, they try to mingle or have a bond with the atom of the adjacent one. So these free electrons move randomly and they form a bond with the atom of the next adjacent atom, and that bond is known as covalent bond. And we all know that valence electrons have highest energy level and the first shell is having the lowest energy level. Okay, so when the valence electrons have highest energy and when such electrons form the covalent bond, due to the coupling between the various electrons, the energy levels associated with the valence electrons merge into each other. They merge, when they form a bond, they create an energy band. Okay, I repeat once again how the energy band is formed. See, this is a free electron, no? This is also a free electron. This is atom 1, this is atom 2 of the silicon. Now when I apply some voltage to this, they start moving in particular direction. So this electron start creating a bond with the electron of the adjacent atom, and this bonding is known as covalent bond. And valence electrons have highest energy level, so they try to jump. They try to jump from one bond to one atom to another atom. These coupling between these valence electrons, the energy level associated with this valence electron merge into one another, and the merging forms the energy band. So energy bands are many, but to name a few, we have conduction band, valence band, right? So conduction band and the valence band. So here we should all know that the energy band formed due to the merging of the energy levels associated with valence electrons is known as valence band. So we have, I'll write here, valence band. Okay, how this valence band is formed, students? The energy band which is formed due to the merging of the energy levels of the valence electrons is known as valence band. Next one is the conduction band. Conduction band. So energy band which is formed due to the merging of the energy level associated with the free electrons is known as the conduction band. The energy which is formed by the free electrons is known as conduction band, and the energy band formed with the help of this free valence electrons is known as valence band. So when you try to create a bond between the valence electrons, they form a bond, and that bond is known as covalent bond. Okay, and energy is created when you merge these, the energy band is created when you merge these electrons. Okay, when you merge these energy levels associated with the electrons, then we form the energy band. So there are two bands, valence band and conduction band. So the energy band formed due to the valence electrons is known as valence band. The energy band formed due to the free electrons is known as conduction band. Okay, so next, so these are the two important band, and we have one more forbidden band which is in between the conduction band and valence band. So these are the three energy bands created by the merging of the electrons. Okay, valence band, conduction band, forbidden band. Forbidden band is in between the conduction band and the valence band. Next, EV. What do you mean by this? Electron volt. It is a unit of energy and it is measured in joules. By the MKS system, electron volt, it is a unit of energy. Okay, and it is by in the MKS system we denote it as joules or J. Okay, so 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 joules. So some important points I would tell students. Various electrons in an atom have various energies associated with them, which indicates that capacity to do work. In order to do work, no, you require energy, and that energy is associated with the various electrons with the help of the energy levels. Okay, and in the first orbit has very lowest energy level, while the valence electrons have very high energy levels. Due to the covalent bonds, energy level merge into each other, forming the energy bands. Okay, the energy band corresponding to merging of the energy level of valence electrons is valence band. The energy band formed due to the merging of energy levels of the free electrons is called conduction band. And we have seen the 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 joules. So next, classification of materials based on the energy band theory. I think you have heard about the conductors. Conductors like copper, aluminium, they form a very high flow of electricity and they are very good conductors. Now we will be talking about the energy band diagrams with respect to conductors, insulators and semiconductors. So in conductors what happens is, I'll just draw the energy diagram. This is the conduction band and this is a valence band. They merge with each other, these two bands in conductor. This means they overlap. They overlap. There is no forbidden gap. Okay, there is no forbidden gap, and the conduction band and the valence band overlap with each other in the conductors. Next, let me see it in the insulator. So there is a very large gap or a very large forbidden gap in the insulators. I'll just write CB, it means conduction band. I'll write VB because I don't have space here, valence band. Okay, so there is a huge gap between the conduction band and the valence band in the insulators. Next, in the semiconductor. So in the semiconductor, there is a small gap, small forbidden gap. This is a CB, means conduction band, valence band. So what are these, students? These are energy band diagrams. So let me explain once again. In the conductors, it's a very high flow of electrons or the current. Flow of electrons is nothing but flow of current. So in conductors, the conduction band and valence band overlap with each other. Okay, and there is no forbidden gap in the conductors. Next, in the insulators, the conduction band and the valence band is separated by a very large forbidden gap of 7 electron volts. Next, in the semiconductors, the conduction band and the valence band are separated by a very small forbidden gap of 1.1 electron volts. Okay, so this is about this energy band diagram of the conductors, insulators and semiconductors. So students, did you understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
So unit 2, semiconductor diode and its characteristics. The atom, just basics I have taught. Now I'll start the unit. The atom can be thought of a consisting of a central nucleus surrounded by orbiting electrons. So here the electrons are negatively charged, nucleus it is positively charged, okay, and electrons weight is 1.602 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. The nucleus of an atom is largely a cluster of two types particles, protons and neutrons. This one I've already explained. The positively charged plus sign is there, no, protons positively charged, and these are neutrons which is having no charge. Okay, if it is a plus sign it is a proton, if it is a no sign it is a neutron, if there is a minus sign inside this then it is a electron. So atom consists of particles known as protons and neutrons. So here once again I would like to show you the atomic number for silicon is 14, isn't it? So nucleus is inside this first shell, second shell, third shell. How do I divide this now? Always the division is like this: 2, 8, 18 and so on. Fine. So 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, total 10. Out of 14 how many are remaining? 4 are remaining. So 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 are remaining, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now when I apply energy for these valence electrons, they move to a adjacent atom, creating a vacancy here. That vacancy is nothing but hole. If this particular electrons forms a bond with the adjacent atom, it creates a hole. So similarly, if this electrons jumps to the adjacent atom making a covalent bond, then this also creates a hole, and this also creates a hole. This particular electron also creates a hole. What I want to tell is, when I apply some energy or some voltage to the valence electrons, what they do is the valence electrons jump to form a bond to the atom of the adjacent one. Adjacent means neighboring atom, it will jump, creating a vacancy. Creating a vacancy means it creates a hole. Okay, this is the concept what I want to explain. Okay, this one I have already explained. Still once again, within a given material there are two energy bands in which electrons may exist: valence band and conduction band. The separation between these two bands is known as forbidden gap. This I have already explained. In conductors there is no forbidden gap. The conduction band and valence band overlap with each other. Insulator, the conduction band and the valence band, in between a very large forbidden gap is there. So no conduction can take place in this because of the heavy gap. Next, here in the semiconductor, there is a very small forbidden gap between the conduction band and valence band. Next, coming to the topic, intrinsic semiconductor. A sample of semiconductor in its purest form is called intrinsic semiconductor. Okay, a purest form of the semiconductor is known as a intrinsic semiconductor. Now, students, this is Si silicon having 4 valence electron. This is also Si having 4 valence electron, and this is also Si. What are these? Atom 1 of silicon, atom 2, atom 3. Now when I apply certain energy, this electron is forming a covalent bond with the electron of the neighboring atom. This is what I meant to say. Okay, see here, 1 2 3 4 electrons are there. 1 2 3 4 electrons are there in the valence band, third shell, valence band, valence shell. Okay, so in the valence shell there are 4 electrons. Here also valence shell, 4 electrons are there. These electrons, when I apply some energy to this or voltage to this, these electrons form a bond with the electron of the neighboring atom, creating a bond, and that bond is known as covalent bond. And similarly, if I want to say still clearly, this is a SI nucleus, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So these two electrons are sharing with the adjacent atoms of silicon, atom 1, atom 2. These two electrons in the valence are sharing with the adjacent atom of the silicon. Okay, so this is how the covalent bond is formed. Sharing of the electrons. When the covalent bond merges with each other, no, energy bands are formed, like conduction band and valence band. So this is about the intrinsic semiconductor and the structure. Okay, so in free electrons, okay, what happens, when I have a nucleus here in this and a shell 1, okay, I am talking about with respect to this is nucleus, shell 1, shell 2, and this 3. Okay, somewhere here 3. So you 1 2 3 4. In the valence electrons there are 4. So here there is, one more SI, 1 2 3 4. This electron is shared with this. Here a vacancy is created. That means hole is generated. So it means electron hole pair. Is generated. So these electrons form a bond with the electron of the adjacent atom, creating a vacancy. So creating a vacancy means hole is generated. So free electrons and holes are generated in pairs. Okay, the formation of electron hole pair is shown here. Okay, so this one, the electron hole pair is due to the thermal energy and is called thermal generation. In simple words, I can tell you this is a circle and this is another one. So this is a SI. This is one SI. This is an electron. This is a hole. So this electron hole, so due to the thermal energy, due to the applying of the thermal energy to this, what happens? Electrons joins to the adjacent SI and creating a hole in this. That is nothing but due to the free electron. Okay, so electron hole pair is generated. So this hole is getting created due to the electron drift and is said to be positively charged. Okay, due to the drift of the electron to the adjacent atom, a hole is created. Due to the electron drift, and it is said to be positively charged. Okay, next. I'll write down conduction in intrinsic semiconductor. So this is the battery, okay, plus minus. These are electron, these are holes. The electrons move towards the negative charge. The electron, here, the electron move towards the positive. Why, tell me? These are the electrons and these are negatively charged. These are holes and these are positively charged. So these electrons move towards the positive direction here, positive of the battery, and these holes move towards the negative side of the battery. This is how the conduction takes place. See, the free electrons and the holes are the two types of the charge carriers. These are charge carriers, electrons and the holes. Movement of electrons is a current. Movement of holes is a current. So total current is what? Total current is equal to electron current plus hole current. Okay. What is total current is equal to? Total current is equal to electron current plus hole current. Due to the movement of the electrons, there is a flow of current. Due to the movement of the holes, there is a flow of currents. So total current is equal to electron current plus hole current. Okay. So there are two types of charge carriers. Those are electrons and the holes. These are the two types of charge carriers in the intrinsic semiconductor. Okay, they need to move in a particular direction. Like electrons flow direction in the positive way of the battery, and the holes move towards the direction of the negative of the battery. Then the flow of current is there. If suppose they move randomly here and there, then there is no any current. Then there is no occurrence of any current. So let now let's consider that the battery is connected across an intrinsic semiconductor. So these free electrons are there, no? These free electrons are negatively charged and experience a force towards the positive terminal of the battery, while the holes are positively charged and they experience a force towards the negative terminal of the battery. As shown in this particular figure, these are the electrons, these are the holes. Electrons are negatively charged and they attract a force towards the positive terminal of the battery, and the holes are positively charged and they experience a force towards the negative terminal of the battery. Okay, so the very important point here is the direction of the current flow is from positive to negative terminal of the battery. Positive to negative terminal, like this. The flow of current, this is the conventional flow of current. Okay, the conventional flow of current, positive to negative. Okay, this one you need to remember. The flow of current is always from positive to negative. So this is about the conduction in the intrinsic semiconductor. So what is intrinsic semiconductor? The purest form of the semiconductor is known as intrinsic semiconductor. This is how the conduction takes place in the intrinsic semiconductor. There are free electrons on there. There are also holes and electrons in the piece of semiconductor. A battery is connected across the intrinsic semiconductor and the electrons are negatively charged. Holes are positively charged. You can just look at the figure. The electrons are attracted towards the positive terminal of the battery and the holes are attracted towards the negative terminal of the battery. In this way the current flows. So this is how the conduction takes place in the intrinsic semiconductor. So you know about the conductivity, right? Conductivity is nothing but a material which can carry current. The more conductivity means the material can carry high current very easily. So the conductivity of a good conductor is high, okay, and that of the insulator is low or zero, you can say. Okay. Any doubts in this, students?